Saudi Arabia just tore up every rule of how you build a city. They are not putting up towers. They are building a country from scratch. A city squeezed into one straight line. A ski mountain inside a desert. A cube big enough to swallow 20 skyscrapers. And the strange part is that this stopped being a drawing a long time ago. There are finished tunnels in the mountains, a port already taking cargo, and the biggest roller coaster on Earth running every day. There's also $1 trillion, 3 frozen building sites, and a review nobody asked for. Satellite images now show exactly what got built and exactly where the cranes went quiet. So here's what Saudi Arabia actually has to show for it. Start with the one that broke everybody's brain, the line. Because whatever you think of it, nobody had ever seriously proposed a building like this before. 2 mirrored walls, 500 meters tall, 200 meters apart, running 170 kilometers in a dead straight line across the desert and through the mountains behind it. That is taller than the Empire State Building, not one tower that tall. 170 kilometers of it without a single break in the wall. 9 million people were supposed to live inside it. That is a quarter of Saudi Arabia's entire population, stacked vertically in a structure with no cars, no roads, and not one street. Instead of streets, a high-speed rail spine buried under the whole length of it, end-to-end in 20 minutes, with everything you need inside a 5-minute walk of your door, and the entire thing running on renewable power. It sits here, in the far northwest corner of the country, running inland from the Gulf of Aqaba into empty desert. That was the promise. Now here's the twist, and it is a big one. On the 16th of September 2025, Saudi Arabia's own sovereign wealth fund stopped the work. Not a foreign critic, not a newspaper. The people paying for it. Not slowed down, stopped, pending a strategic review. As of this spring, that review still had not reported back, and no date has been announced for restarting. The 170-kilometer version has quietly become a multi-decade idea, with 2045 now floated as a possible finish date. The other 168 kilometers have no active timeline at all. What actually exists on the ground is a 2.4-kilometer proof of concept near Sharma, designed to eventually house around 300,000 people rather than 9 million. Independent estimates put that stub somewhere between 5 and 10% complete. So after roughly 5 years and an enormous amount of money, this is what there is. But here's the thing, that piece is real. Foundations poured, concrete cores standing above ground, and the first of the mirrored facade panels already hung on steel frames. 4 major modules were in progress in the marina zone before the stop. One had foundations and structures rising. The next had over 5,500 piles driven into the ground. At its peak, this was the largest pile driving operation anywhere on the planet. Low carbon concrete, GPS-guided rigs, smart drilling fluids, precision engineering at a scale nobody had attempted. Meanwhile, the world's biggest dewatering system ran 24 hours a day, pulling water out of the ground through over 500 wells and thousands of sensors just to keep the site dry enough to build on. And underneath all of it, tunnel boring machines were carving out the rail spine that was supposed to run the full length of the city. So the honest version of the line is this. The hardest, deepest, and most expensive part of it got built. Then somebody upstairs finally asked what the other 168 kilometers were actually for. And that is just the beginning, because what they have been building in the middle of Riyadh is a completely different story, and a much happier one. They took an entire disused airbase sitting in the center of the capital and started turning it into the largest urban park in the world. 16.9 square kilometers. More than 11 of those are pure green space in a city where the summer regularly clears 45 degrees. For scale, that is roughly 5 times the size of Central Park in New York, dropped straight into the middle of Riyadh, on land that used to be a runway. Here it is from orbit, sitting right inside the built-up city rather than out on the edge of it. The numbers inside are the interesting part. A central wadi and lakes, water features covering 300,000 square meters, a circular walking loop 7.2 kilometers long, 5 train stations and 10 bus stops feeding into it, 12,000 homes, 16 hotels, a royal golf course covering 850,000 square meters, an equestrian center, and a skydiving and hot air ballooning center. But the real showstopper is the Royal Arts Complex, and this is where the story turns much more encouraging. 500,000 square meters of cultural buildings, and construction there is 48% complete. Not a render, not under review, just steel going up, roughly on schedule. At its center, the Museum of World Cultures, a 110-meter pyramid designed to become the new icon of the skyline, and it is expected to open this year. Around it, a National Theater seating 2,300, 3 cinema halls, 3 arts academies, and a library holding over 500,000 books on culture and art, plus a spherical venue they simply call the Dome. The park opens in stages from late this year into next, and the plan is 1 million trees planted in a city where shade is genuinely the most valuable thing you can own. And just when you think they could not push it any further, they drop a cube on the desert. It is called the Mukaab, 400 meters tall, 400 meters wide, 400 meters deep. A perfect cube wrapped in a pattern lifted from traditional Najdi architecture, big enough to hold 20 Empire State Buildings inside it. On completion, it would be the largest building on Earth by volume, and $1 billion steel contract was signed to make that happen. The idea inside is stranger than the outside. A hollow interior wrapped floor to ceiling in screens, so the space you walk into can be a canyon, a spaceport, or a city that does not exist. A holographic downtown inside a box. It anchors New Maraba, an entirely new downtown for Riyadh, covering 19 square kilometers, right here on the north side of the city. And the groundwork here was genuinely enormous. Excavation reached 86%, with over 10 million cubic meters of earth hauled out of the middle of a working capital city. They even built a temporary bridge over a main road purely to keep around 800,000 truck movements off Riyadh's public streets. That is the level of planning that went in. Then in January 2026, the Mukaab was suspended too. The completion target slid from 2030 to somewhere around 2040. 2 of the headline projects frozen within 4 months of each other. The district around it keeps going though, and there is a reason for that. Riyadh has 2 deadlines it cannot move: Expo 2030 and the 2034 World Cup. Those dates are doing the work that ambition could not. So far, this has been a story about things being paused. Now here is the one that actually opened, and it went bigger than anyone expected. 40 kilometers from Riyadh, on the edge of the Tuwaiq escarpment, they carved an entire entertainment city out of a cliff face. Qiddiya covers 360 square kilometers. Theme parks, stadiums, a Formula One grade circuit, golf courses, and residential districts planned for over 600,000 residents. It sits right here, along the cliff line west of the capital, close enough for a day trip from Riyadh. And on the 31st of December 2025, Six Flags Qiddiya City opened its gates to the public. Not a soft launch, a full opening. It is the first Six Flags park ever designed and built outside North America. 28 rides and attractions packed into 79 acres, delivered under a main contract worth about 3.75 billion rials. And the headline ride is not marketing. Falcon's Flight took 3 separate world records on its first day open. Tallest, fastest, longest, all 3 at once. It beat top Thrill 2 Formula Rossa and Steel Dragon on the same afternoon. 250 kilometers an hour, 155 miles an hour, on a roller coaster carrying members of the public. The layout uses the cliff itself, a 525-foot drop off a 640-foot cliff face, straight into a magnetic launch that throws you back up over a 535-foot hill. 4,250 meters of track, 3 minutes 35 seconds. No inversions at all, and the whole layout is big enough to be picked out from orbit. Engineers had to solve a problem no coaster designer had faced before: desert heat. So the train's got aerodynamic shells, wheel cooling systems, and windshield-style covers, so riders do not need goggles at that speed. Sirocco Tower, the tallest drop tower in the world, came online shortly after opening day, and the Aquarabia Water Park opened in April this year. The other anchor here is the Prince Mohammed bin Salman Stadium, going up 200 meters above the ground on the Tuwaiq Cliffs, seating roughly 47,000. It is designed to be the first stadium in the world combining a retractable roof, a retractable pitch, and a full LED megawall in one structure. Due in 2029 and set to host a World Cup quarter-final, and it keeps coming. A 70,000-seat horse racing venue announced in February. A national tennis center with 30 courts announced in June. A metro line being built out to reach the site. The target is 48 million visitors a year by 2030, 325,000 jobs, and 135 billion riyals added to the economy annually. This is the part people miss about Saudi Arabia right now. While the headline megaprojects froze, the entertainment city quietly delivered, on time, and broke 3 world records doing it. Now back to the Red Sea. because there is an industrial city out there that almost nobody talks about, and it is the one that is genuinely working. Oxagon was pitched as a floating octagon of factories sitting out on the water. What actually exists is less cinematic and far more useful. A real deep water port on one of the busiest trade routes on Earth. It sits at the top of the Red Sea, a short run from the Suez Canal, on a coastline that around 12% of world trade passes through. That location is the entire business case. Construction at the port has reached 68%, and it is already open for cargo business. Ships are calling there now, not in 2040. It became the first port in Saudi Arabia to run fully automated, remote-controlled cranes. Full container terminal operations are meant to start this year, heading for 1.5 million containers a year by 2030. But the real prize out here is not the containers. It is the plant next door, and it is the single most successful thing in this entire vision. The world's largest green hydrogen plant is being built at Oxagon, running entirely on its own solar farms and wind parks out in the desert behind it. And it is 80% complete, on track for delivery this year, with green ammonia exports expected to begin in 2027, dates that have not moved. So, out of everything Saudi Arabia announced, the piece actually hitting its deadlines is not the mirrored city. It is a chemical plant and a container terminal. Which tells you something. And if you thought the industrial city was the strange one, wait until you hear what happened to the island. Sindalah is a luxury island in the Gulf of Aqaba, less than 1 square kilometer of rock, and it was meant to be the first piece of this whole vision that ordinary people could actually visit. A marina with 85 berths for yachts up to 165 feet, plus mooring buoys outside the harbor for super yachts up to 550, 413 hotel rooms, 333 apartments. In October 2024, they threw a $45 million opening party. 65 super yachts in the bay, Alicia Keys performing, celebrities flown in from 3 continents, and then nothing. Nearly 2 years later, the island is still not open to the public. No published room rates, no booking site, no announced arrival dates for guests. It came in around $4 billion, roughly 3 times the original budget, and about 3 years behind schedule. Management has now been handed to a different state company entirely. It is reported now at 75 to 80% finished, aiming for a soft opening late this year. So the closest thing here to a completed tourist destination is a private island you still cannot book a room on. Which brings us to the one that sounds impossible even next to everything else. They decided to build a ski resort in Arabia. Trojana sits high in the Sarawat Mountains, 50 kilometers inland from the Gulf of Aqaba, between 1,500 and 2,600 meters above sea level. High enough that it does actually get cold up there. 60 square kilometers of mountain with an artificial freshwater lake at the center of it and 36 kilometers of ski slopes planned around the rim. The snow is the clever bit. Fan guns producing chemical-free snow under controlled freezing conditions, running 24 hours a day without shutting the slopes, with 12 hours of snow storage feeding a piping network across the terrain. Real snow from December to March, then synthetic dry slopes for the rest of the year, including a run built on the roof of the ski village itself. A 12-month ski season in the desert. And there is real construction up there. Satellite imagery shows access roads switchbacking into the mountains, groundwork cut for the ski slopes, and tunneling underway through the rock. The 680-meter B3 tunnel is finished, connecting the lake access road to the vault, a vertical village built directly into the side of the mountain. The steel framework alone was costed at 127,000 tons. That is the equivalent of 18 Eiffel Towers, going up on a mountainside with tower cranes working at altitude. And then Trojana lost the one thing it was built for. Back in 2022, Saudi Arabia won the 2029 Asian Winter Games for a ski resort that did not exist yet. It was going to be the first Middle Eastern host in history. In January this year, the Games were postponed indefinitely. In February, they were handed to Almaty in Kazakhstan instead. The mountain is still being built. The deadline that justified it is gone, so add it all up. A mirrored city, frozen. A 400-meter cube, frozen and pushed into the 40s. A ski resort with no games left to host. An island nobody can book a room on. And on the other side, a working deep water port taking cargo. A hydrogen plant at 80% and on schedule. The world's largest urban park opening in stages. And the biggest roller coaster on Earth running every single day. The renders promised a new civilization. What actually got built is a country's industrial base, a park, and a theme park, which honestly is the more interesting story. The timelines will keep moving. Some of this will never exist, but they did start building it, and the concrete out there is real.